No, he gets quite upset at her.
Okay.
Well, it helps. I don't know what it helps. It helps something. So we'll be on, are we? Right, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, if we could resume. It is 1:45 now. Though there are some of us who would like to get home this evening. For the rest of you, I'm sure we can arrange a teaching or something at the end of the evening to keep you busy. But so if we move straight on, please, to the agenda. Item 1 is apologies for absence. Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies from Councillors Mrs. Roberts, Councillor Moody and Councillor Ted Sanders.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest that they feel they need to declare at this point in time? No. Could I just remind members then that if you do become aware of an interest during the course of the evening, please draw it to my attention and we will record it appropriately. So if we move swiftly on then please to item 3, which is minutes of council meetings. The minutes of the meeting of the Town Council held on the 28th of November are attached. I will go through them for errors and omissions on page 1. Have you got an error or omission on page 1? I'll move on to page 2 then. Page 3. Fingers won't work. Page 4. Page 5. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. And page 8. Are you content, Councillor Ewings, or did you have a query on one of them? Thank you. So are you all happy that I signed them as an accurate record of the meeting? Thank you. So if we move on then please to item 3B, which is matters arising. Are there any matters arising that are not covered by this evening's agenda? Councillor Ewings, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Minute 210B was planning training. And the Mayor was going to take up with West Devon. Have you had any joy?
I have had discussions. I haven't managed to get an absolute resolution that somebody will come and do it yet, but I am pursuing it, yes. I have had discussions with Mr. Weimer, and I would hope that we can do it. We are struggling just a little bit at the moment, as I think most people in the population will know. A significant number of us, myself included, who never gets ill, have been hit by this wretched bug. So we are struggling just a bit, although things are beginning to come to the end of the tunnel. So that's the situation on that. And your next point?
Is minute 215, the bottom of page 4.
Bottom of page 3. Or bottom of page 4.
Oh, sorry, it's little C.
Town Hall report.
Town Hall report, and D, the Pannier Market report. The General Manager undertook to provide clarification, etc. on these issues. I realise that he's been a very busy chap, but I don't know whether anyone else has managed to be able to look into these issues for us. And if not, I'm quite happy that it's deferred, but because I've brought it up in these minutes, it can carry forward, and I'm quite happy with that as the answer.
Town Clerk, please.
I think General Manager, perhaps.
The actual question that Councillor Johnson asked was answered by the Market Reeve to a degree in the email correspondence, and the last budget and policy we agreed that we would take it forward with getting the internal auditor in to look at all of this in more detail.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's now minuted.
Yep.
That's all I
Okay.
wanted. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Could you push your little button then, please? Thank you. So if we then move on, councillors, to item 4, which is council budget and precept. 4A, Town Clerk, please.
Thank you very much. We've run through the budget process since September of last year, worked up the budget proposals through multiple meetings of the Budget and Policy Committee. Those minutes have all come back here and they have been both endorsed and varied by this body as appropriate. What you have before you is a proposal in relation to the budget which reflects the deliberations both of this body and that, and a precept set accordingly to match that budget. So this is inviting members to, unless there are any further changes or adjustments you wish to make, to endorse both the budget for the next financial year and the proposed precept.
So that refers to items 4A and 4B, is that right? For members' benefit and also for the press benefit, I'm reliably informed that the increase works out at 22.5 new pence per week per band D equivalent property. That's the impact of the council tax increase at this level. 22.5 pence per week per band D property. Now, clearly, I'm sure members are aware that the precept, their council tax, sorry, is made up of a whole number of different precepts. So that 22.5 pence will be the impact from the town council's precept. There will be other impacts with Devon County Fire Service, Police Authority, etc. But that's the situation, members. So there isn't actually a recommendation here, is there?
It is effectively A and B, sir.
Is that a recommendation?
It follows on from, if I may, the minutes of the Budget and Policy Committee meeting, but effectively it's to endorse and agree the budget for 2018-19 as submitted and the precept in the sum of.
Councillor Smith?
Can I move to endorse the recommendations, Mr Mayor?
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Sheldon, thank you. Members, do you wish to have a debate on this matter? No? Those in favour then please show. It's clearly carried. Any against? Abstentions, I take it. Councillor Crawford, you're abstaining on the basis that you haven't been involved in the build-up. That's fine. Okay, I think hopefully Mrs Turpin has got sufficient information from that, have you? Thank you. So if we move on then please to item 5, which is general finance, schedules of payment. I understand from the clerk there have been no questions raised by members on this time, which is very unusual. No doubt we'll get a whole rash of them tonight, will we? No? And
Move that they be received.
thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Palfrey. Any debate on those? There shouldn't really be a debate on them, frankly, but anybody got any other questions or queries? No? Move on to item 5B then, budget monitoring report. Anything on that, members? No? All happy? Okay, so if we move on then to item 6, budget and policy committee, to consider the minutes of them which are enclosed. I'm sure I've got mine somewhere. So, as chair of that, it falls to me to present these minutes. They start on page 1 at minute 230, 231, 232, 233, 234, nothing on 233, 234, 235. Councillor Young, please.
On the bottom of page 5 of the papers, it was the note that an informal meeting would be arranged. Has plans been put in place yet, Mr Clark?
We haven't yet. What we were looking to do was to await some further feedback in relation to the discussions which are taking place between the Town Council and Tavistock Heritage Trust in relation to the lease. We have actually had some feedback very recently now, so I would be looking to liaise with the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor to discuss when would be the most appropriate time for that meeting to take place.
Okay, thank you.
Having been, as a member of THT, having been present at the meeting on Friday night, which was called specially to deal with the heads of terms of the lease, I can say that the two sides are now pretty much together. There is no real issue. There are one or two minor details to be sorted out around percentages and the definition of certain words, but other than that, I think the THT are quite happy to sign a lease. No, I don't think THT are quite happy to sign a lease. They are happy to sign a lease, subject to their lawyers confirming it. You're frowning an awful lot, Councillor Ewing.
Yeah, the lease that was sent to the members of the Budget and Policy Committee, is that the lease?
Heads of terms.
It was heads of terms only. Yeah.
Right. It's very brief.
It was heads of terms.
Yeah. Okay, so
Heads of terms are normally 1 or 2 pages, not much more.
do we see the lease for the ins and outs and the...
There is no reason why you shouldn't see the lease that I'm aware of. The clerk's about to scream, but I'm going to let him scream silently and then
Well, no,
speak.
I'm quite happy to come and read it on my own if that's
The,
whatever.
the heads of terms set out the fundamental principles. What we would anticipate doing would be, if when those principles are articulated within the lease, there are points of tension, those would be the sorts of things that we would bring back to members. I think it is difficult to negotiate a whole lease on the basis of committee. It doesn't work from that point of view. But if there are issues having agreed heads of terms which then arise, it's quite appropriate that we would bring back to members those particular points in order that we can seek clarification on those, such that you are comfortable with them.
I think Councillor Ewing's point, Mr Clark, was that will it be possible if individual members wish to see the details of the lease, that it's available to them? It is effectively a public document.
That they would be able to come in and inspect.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't possibly go through a whole lease.
My reasoning is that some of us have had huge involvement in this over the years. We've talked about percentages, we've talked about in, out and whatever, and which bit is theirs, which bit's ours, who can use it in what hours. So actually to see the lease come together, to me, seems quite important. I admit I'm a sado and a reader, and we all know that, but I know there's certain members that probably would like to see it.
Councillor Smith, please.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Yes, I mean, I think there's more than just that to look at, and there's an awful lot of stuff that's been developing over the recent weeks, and certainly that, as far as I'm aware, will be coming to the next budget and policy, which is the place where we should discuss it and concentrate on what's before us at that point, because it is a moving thing at the moment, and I'm aware that some of this stuff has only just appeared yesterday or today. So by the time it gets to budget and policy, we should have the whole thing together and be able to form a view on it overall. But correctly, the heads of terms are like a very, very brief description of what's in a very large document. So we need to look at the heads of terms, but we also need to be aware of how that would translate into the lease.
Any other councillor want to comment? If not, I'm going to move on to 233, 234, 235, 236. I think which that deals with Councillor Ewing's points earlier, that it is being taken forward. 237, 238, 239, 240.
240, Mr. Mayor. Can I just ask, within 240 it talks about yourself undertaking to convey the views that were expressed at this meeting principally by you, conveying them to the organisation concerned within that.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I think I undertook to pass them on to Councillor Ewings as a director of one of the bid directors. I haven't written the letter yet, but I will do in the next 2 to 3 days, hopefully. I think it was to you rather than to the chairman of the bid, because I think it was you specifically that asked if I would do it to you, if members are happy with that.
And the meeting is on the 17th, isn't it, I believe?
Is that okay? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's present before the 17th.
Yeah, okay. Suitably hand-smacked. I haven't got around to it, but yes. I haven't been too well, actually. No, it's true. But that's no real excuse. And then 241 was the public bodies and missions. We'll pick those up when we come to the part 2 later in the meeting. So,
move the minutes.
Thank you. There's a seconder for that. Thank you. Thank you for that, members. So if we then move on to item 7, which is Development Management and Licensing Committee. Deputy Mayor, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Meeting of the Development Management and Licensing Committee, 12th of December. Minutes 221, 222, 223, 224, 225, 226, 227, 228, A and B.
Yes, it's all about the
The neutral view referred to landscape officer. I was passed the message that if you did have any comments, then they would be well received on the matter in question, obviously, rather than just every one of them being the same. There's no objection to sending any comment you wish. It will be gratefully received.
Thank you, Councillor Sheldon. Then, Development Management and Licensing Committee, 3rd of January. Minutes numbers 243, 244, 245, 246, 247. 247 refers to a proposal to paint double yellow lines on the left-hand side of Grenville Drive from its junction with the main road, Plymouth Road, up to the first junction to the left. This was subject to a visit of the Highways and Transport Orders Committee yesterday, at which were present a number of members of this council, the county councillor and borough councillor. It was clear that emotions were running high, with essentially two camps. The residents of Grenville Drive strongly in favour of double yellow lines on the basis that access to their properties is made very difficult by parking along that stretch of the road, parking that they consider to be very inconsiderate. The other camp being the residents of Westbridge Cottages, who have great difficulty finding anywhere to park their cars as the properties do not have off-street parking by and large. It was made very clear by the chairman of HATOC that HATOC will not impose a decision, but will receive guidance from the town council, if appropriate, in collaboration with the borough councillor and the county councillor. It therefore seems appropriate that this issue comes back to the Development Management and Licensing Committee for further consideration, and then goes forward to full council for further discussion and ratification. Okay. Do you have any comments, Mr. Mayor?
None at all. We've taken this, as our chair has, we've taken this view with a number of places recently where there have been local issues where there has been a huge division of views, and the only thing, HATOC is not going to impose anything upon anyone. They advertised a traffic order at the request of a number of people and organisations, including fire service and others, about difficulties accessing Grenville Drive itself, and residents within Grenville Drive having difficulties accessing their properties or exiting their properties, both probably. So a proposal was advertised as part of a comprehensive traffic order covering a number of towns and villages throughout West Devon. This particular one clearly proved controversial. It came back to HATOC, and we agreed that we would have a site visit so that we could understand better what the problems were. And at the end of that, it is quite clear that there are at least two diametrically opposed views. Potentially I think there may be slightly more than two diametrically opposed views, but there are clearly two sets of views which are diametrically opposed one to another. And the only sensible way forward, I think, for HATOC to make a decision is to seek the views of those people who represent the local residents, and that is the county councillor, the borough councillors and this council, and for this council to collect and collate those views, pass a view back to HATOC, and HATOC will ultimately make a decision based on those views. Now, as far as HATOC is concerned, the traffic order has been published. The options are do absolutely nothing, because it's been published and consulted upon. It is possible for people to come back to HATOC and say, no, we don't want any of it. HATOC's not seeking to impose something that people don't want. The other extreme is to implement the order as it's been published, and any other permutation, providing it is within the the order that has been published. So, for example, there has been comment that the double yellow lines would be better placed on the opposite side of Granville Drive. That is not something which can be achieved currently, simply because the order that was published showed them on the left-hand side of Granville Drive as you enter it from the A386. So alterations to that section could be made within the traffic order, but it is not possible to say we're not having on the left, we're having on the right, because that would result in there having to be another traffic order raised, another process of consultation gone through, and apart from anything else, that's expensive, but also will take considerable time. I think from Hattock's point of view, there are no major road safety issues associated with it. There are one or two minor ones. For instance, there is no double yellow line as you go up Granville Drive and turn left into Ransom Way. There's no double yellow line on the lower corner of that entrance. There already is one on the upper corner, but that's for safety and visibility issues. And they have, the county officers have had representations from the fire service who have found great difficulty at times, particularly in the evening, in getting up through Granville Drive because of vehicles being parked on both sides of the road. If both sides of the road park on the carriageway, then the road is only really available for small vehicles. At the moment, what tends to happen is people on the right-hand side of the road as you enter it park partially on the pavement. That causes some issues, but not major issues for the people on the pavement. So I think those are the points that probably need to be taken into consideration. Procedurally, my understanding is that what is now the Development Management and Licensing Committee, but was previously at that time, I think, the Planning Committee, did actually reach a conclusion at their meeting in October, and at the moment that is what has been sent through to the county officers. But there is an opportunity, I think, and in view of the site visit, I think my personal view would be that it would be sensible for the Development Management Committee to reconsider. They may well come out with exactly the same opinion as they came out with previously, but they may want to reconsider it, having looked at the situation on site. If, for the sake of reminding the members as a whole, on Granville Drive, what was recorded at that meeting was object to the proposal on the following grounds: the lack of parking for Westbridge cottages immediately opposite Granville Drive, 84 houses with access to only 14 parking spaces. So many Westbridge cottage residents have no option but to park in Granville Drive. There were also concerns raised that care workers visiting elderly residents in the area were finding it increasingly difficult to park, especially as they only have a 15-minute slot to visit each patient. It was also felt that by putting double yellow lines where planned, parking issues would only be displaced further up into Granville Drive, where in many parts the road is narrower. The preference would be for no additional double yellow lines to be added to Granville Drive, but if that is not an option, was requested that any additional double yellow lines be on the right-hand side of the road, not the left-hand side as proposed. That was what was agreed, as I understand it, at your plans meeting on the 9th of October. Sorry, I said the 10th just now. On the 9th of October, and that was forwarded to county. But I think in view of the site visit that took place, it would be appropriate for plans to, or DM to just review that. They may well come back to exactly the same decision, but they may not. And again, this is my personal suggestion procedurally, as it is such a contentious issue involving quite a significant number of people. It might be sensible for plans to make a recommendation back to full council, so that the council as a whole can take that decision ultimately, rather than it being taken within plans. Councillor Sheldon.
I would propose that it did come back as a recommendation and full council made a decision on that matter.
Councillor Squire.
Could I say that next to the NHS and potholes, pavement parking has been my biggest representation. So any solution which requires pavement parking would not receive my support. So I think we need to bear that in mind. It is an impediment to pedestrians. So we need to bear that as a ruling.
Thank you for that, Councillor Squire. This is not a political point, and in fact you would be surprised if I was making a political point criticising an organisation which I'm known to support, but the government, and I don't think it's just the current government, has made a complete and absolute hash nationally of dealing with pavement parking. And unless the pavement is completely obstructed, i.e. it's physically impossible to walk along it, there's almost nothing we can do. If it is obstructed, then our civil enforcement officers are able to take limited action. The police won't take any action because they claim they have no jurisdiction. And if you've followed the press nationally over the last year or so, this is a very contentious issue all over the country, and there's no simple answer to it. Pavement parking is disliked by highways because the pavements aren't constructed to take the weight of vehicles, so people consistently parking on it doesn't actually do the surface of the pavement any good. And if you happen to be the proud owner of a buggy, particularly if you've got 2 children in a buggy, and trying to get a wide buggy up some of the pavements that have got vehicles parked on is actually not possible.
Or the disabled.
Or the disabled, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it is an unfortunate problem, and we must do all we can, in my personal opinion, to try and reduce any pavement parking. Sadly, there isn't a legal way for us to deal with it at the moment, because nationally it's been ducked, frankly. It could have been dealt with, but the pavement actually has to be obstructed before you can take any action.
Thank you.
Councillor Venning, please.
I was at that meeting yesterday and talking to the people on the left-hand side of the road, right? Apparently there's plenty of parking around the back of the houses, right? But the people in that row of houses are not allowed to park there because it belongs to somebody. It's only for visitors, for the people in Ransom Way and things like that. They would, you know, they're not allowed to park. They can get out the back doors and get into the cars, but they're not allowed to park around there. I was wondering whether there was any way we could find out whether we could use that. You know,
the land in question is owned by Devon and Cornwall Housing, and the properties are the property of Devon and Cornwall Housing, having gone from, West Devon Homes through Tor Homes and now Devon and Cornwall. So that organisation is able to control the use of that land. Whether or not this council felt it appropriate to make any representation to Devon and Cornwall Housing, I mean, I don't know, but that would be the only way of dealing with it, is if a representation was made to Devon and Cornwall Housing to see whether that is possible. I know that certainly one of the residents who was present said that they had received letters telling them that they were not, one of the residents of Devon and Cornwall Housing property, telling them they were not permitted to use the parking spaces at the back because those were visitor parking spaces for Ransom Way. So, but as I say, that's a Devon and Cornwall Housing issue. Whether we want to get involved in that is not something that for me to say, really. But that is, sorry, Councillor Whitcomb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was just that, whether this is relevant or not, I don't know. But on the news yesterday, there was a house that went up in smoke, a fire, and the fire engine could not get through because there was a parked car in its way. So, you know, this, to me, it's nonsense even talking about it. We should put the yellow lines up there and not.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to thank you for that. I'm going to stop that point here, I think, because I think this needs debating at plans and then bringing back before this council with a view. We could have the debate tonight, but you know, I think it would be appropriate because an official response has gone from this council following on the plans meeting on the 9th of October, and I think if that's going to get changed, and it may not, then that needs to go through the plans committee and come back to this council with a recommendation, if that's okay with everybody. You all happy with that? Thank you. Deputy Mayor, over to you again.
Continuing, minute number 248, 249, 250, A and B, 251. I beg to move.
Yep. All happy with it? Councillor Ewings? Sorry? Oh, right. Would you like to move both? Would you like to move both sets then? And Councillor Venning, you're going to second both sets, are you? That will do. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure the clerk and the assistant to the town clerk are delighted to have things to write down. So if we move on then please to items circulated for information only. Service reports. General Manager. It says to follow, and it did in a separate envelope. Any questions on that report, please? Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, I've only got one question that came via social media. You may have seen it. was just some indication when nighttime works was taking place.
Can you just stop? Can I just ask you just to stop for a minute, because Councillor Crawford's obviously not. There were two sets of papers that came out. It's in the second. It's in the second set. It's headed Agenda Item 8, General Manager's Overview. Sorry, Councillor Shedder, just hold on just for a minute. Just, because it makes it very difficult for people if they
that's the one.
don't have the paper in front of them.
The one. Yeah.
Became separate.
That's
Yes,
it.
that's it.
Yeah. It's page 3
Yeah.
to introduce this.
Page 3, right?
Yeah. It's because you're going to have talks with BID, and the Town Council will be having talks this year about this season's lights. And I wanted to point out, we did have a couple of complaints about works, a child was woken up. Basically, all it was, whether we could give a mention when those works are likely to be on social media. That's either from, I hope you can understand this, Chair. Basically,
I'm assuming someone's child was sleeping in one of the upper rooms when somebody appeared outside in a cherry picker, did they?
That's right, yes.
Right.
Early, about 1:30 in the morning, and
Sorry?
about 1:30 a.m. in the morning. So it was a 4-year-old child, a bit more detail. But basically,
I can't imagine any of our staff being up there at
no, apparently
01:30.
it must have been it may have been contractors at Market Street. It may have been BID. But as we're doing this as a sort of a
Yep, okay.
co-partnership production, I'm just asking whether, and they will probably know about this as well, I'm just asking, can we consider putting a little bit of social media out to say when we are likely to be taking the lights down in the streets where people do live in these properties at night? So at least if they hear a noise or are disturbed, they do know about it. Is that possible?
From the Town Council's perspective, yes. In relation to Saturday's work, I'll pass it on to the bid manager, because that was contractors dealing with bid lights. Usually from the Town Council perspective, we limit putting up the Christmas lights by finishing the work around 11 o'clock in the evening. And we also use cherry pickers, which
are not petrol driven.
Yeah. Which we use.
Yeah, so I think it was a legitimate
Saturday.
complaint that they've got no other complaints. They think the work was done efficiently.
Duly noted. Thank you very much for that. Town Clerk, please.
Just in addition, if I may, since the time the report was prepared, we are looking to dispose of a portakabin cum welfare unit, which the Works Department previously used. We won't do that without formal consent, and we need to bring that back to your next meeting. It's just to say that we are marketing that at the moment, and the reason why I'm bringing this to you is because under our financial regulations, we are obliged to seek Council's consent for disposals, and we will do that at the next meeting of Council.
Thank you. Could I suggest we actually invite the General Manager to see if BID would be prepared to actually issue an apology to whichever resident was disturbed at 01:30 in the morning? Because I think if I'd been disturbed at 01:30 in the morning, whoever disturbed me probably would have a very large bucket of incredibly cold water over them. But I think that's going beyond the pale, even for, you know. Yeah, it wasn't bad, was it, for this time of night? It was quite good, really. They're too young to remember what a pail was, Harry. They don't have them anymore, do they? We had them on, you know, enamel ones on wash day. But right. So if we move on, nothing else on the General Manager's one. We've now got Works Department to follow. Any questions, queries or issues on the Works Department monthly report? No? Okay, so if we move on to the Town Hall report then, which was enclosed. Any questions on that? No? Comment? Yes?
Trying to say well done to the Town Hall Manager for getting us the best town winning venue, final or semi-final, whatever it is. But well done.
It's a pretty good show. And there are some of us going to support him at that event, I think, aren't we? Yeah. I intend to go as the Mayor to support our staff at the event when the final judging is made. think it's really important that we do, and thank you, Councillor Williamson, for that. I think it would be nice to feed that back, and I'm sure the town clerk will do so, and or the general manager will feed it back to the staff. So if we then move on to the pannier market report, which is also enclosed. General manager, is there anything you want to say by way of introduction or conclusion, or
No.
that Butcher's Hall has fallen down, or no? Councillor Ewings, and then Councillor Wickham. Okay.
Third paragraph down, we have now purchased 2 by 12 by 8 foot wooden market shallows. I thought we had agreed as a council that we would be hiring. So I'm just a bit intrigued.
The hire costs were more expensive than the purchase costs.
Oh, thank you.
Councillor Wickham, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a matter of thanks and appreciation for all the hard work that the General Manager and the Pannier Market and the Town Hall have done to produce a wonderful market. I don't know if anybody's seen it today, but it was really brilliant. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think it would be, I think the General Manager would agree with me actually as well, that it would be appropriate for us to record our thanks. I know they were being paid for it on a contract, but I think the contractor who worked on Butcher's Hall did a pretty good job for us actually, and I'm not biased in favour or against any particular contractor, but I thought they actually probably went above and beyond to some extent to turn that around in the timescale.
Completely agree with the contractor for the internal works, and I think it's also worth passing on our thanks to the traders as well in relation to the flexibility they've shown, especially the 5-day traders, for the turnaround in a short period of time to move into Butcher's Hall.
Yeah, it's been quite an operation, but it actually gone not without a hitch, because these things never go completely without a hitch, but it's gone without any major hitches. I think it actually gone quite well, hasn't it?
The only issue was Wi-Fi, but we'll have that sorted tomorrow. So.
Okay. Anything else on the pannier market report? No. Read. The agenda. Sure, I've got an agenda somewhere. Right. If we go on to item 9 then, finance and other matters, to receive for information the following: the report of the assistant to the town clerk, which has been enclosed. Dates for your diary: 13th of April for the Civic Ball, grants presentation evening, Thursday the 10th of May. Thank you very much for those who came to the Christmas party, and thank you also from me to both the assistant to the town clerk and Sue Pell, who put a lot of work into making sure that that happened and also making it an enjoyable evening as far as I was concerned. Thank you, my thanks to them for that, and to all of the staff and councillors who actually turned up. It was a good evening, and I think certainly the West Devon Club did us proud as well. So the food was very good. So thank you for that. I think I'm not sure what's going on, but I think while we're on this report, I think item 3 is something that we need to flag up. It simply says in here, General Manager and I will be attending training. I'm not sure those people who were directly involved in this sort of thing will understand just what a massive exercise the new regulations are going to land us with, and land all sorts of organisations with, but I think it might be helpful if perhaps the town clerk or the assistant town clerk just sketched out some of the issues, because it is actually going to put quite a big burden on us.
It will necessarily be a sketch because, as is ever the case, government have delayed publishing the regulations, which means that the training which was scheduled to be undertaken in our sector last year was postponed and is now being held this year. Essentially, this is a fundamental rewrite of the Data Protection Act and its linkages with the Freedom of Information Act. In particular, it is looking at the way in which organisations retain and hold personal data, and in particular sensitive personal data. It is looking at both the way in which you do that electronically and in non-electronic forms. It will involve us having a review undertaken of all of our electronic systems by our current system provider. They will provide a report with recommendations as to what we need to do and how. We will also need to look at the manual ways in which we hold that information, and it is effectively replacing the Data Protection Act, which up till now has been the legislation. It's driven by, and it's consistent across the European Union. However, there is no intention, as I understand it, with or without Brexit, for the government not to go forward in relation to this. We are yet to ascertain fully what the implications are for the organisation. They will be, at the very least, I would anticipate, significant and quite potentially substantial. We will, therefore, once we have a handle on what is required, be coming back to members with what the implications of this are for the organisation. But as I say, it's a little bit difficult at this moment in time because in the absence of the regulations, the training which was scheduled for October last year didn't take place. I'm undertaking some training on Friday of this week, and as I say, my colleagues have got some down the line, and we will bring back a further report when we know the implications. But it's certainly at this stage not to be underestimated in terms of what those implications might be, and we should report back accordingly.
I'll just say, if any of you are involved in any other organisations, if you're not sort of half up to speed on this, I would suggest you Google it and just see what the implications are, because they are significant for all organisations, basically, and it is effectively almost a rewrite of the Data Protection Act, and it does and will have a biggish impact, and you will have to comply. And it is extended effectively into areas which weren't previously covered. So I would strongly suggest you do that. If we move on to item 4 on the Assistant to the Town Clerk's report, I would like to add the thanks of the councillors to the staff of the Town Council, who have been really excellent in providing support at the remembrance services that we've had at the War Memorial. We've had a number of specific battles that have been commemorated during the course of this year at the War Memorial. Short service at the War Memorial at 11 o'clock on each occasion, and the Works Department in particular have been extremely well represented there, and that has been noticed. And as it says in the report, the British Legion are extremely grateful for the level of support that this council has provided. Both councillors and in particular the Works Department staff have been exceptionally good in being present, and I think it's I would like that comment passed back to them as well, please, because it has been noted. Is there anything else on the Assistant to the Town Clerk's report that anyone wants to raise? That's what all the whispering was about. Sorry, this is somebody else first. Councillor, whatever he's called, Williamson, that'll do, won't it? Yeah.
Day for the man-engine's visit. It was mentioned on the train last night.
It's April the...
It's the day after Easter Monday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 2nd, isn't it?
The first Tuesday is in April.
It is on the 3rd, I think, is it? Yes. Tuesday the 3rd of April is the man engine visit. I don't know much about the details. I understand most, if not all, of the Bedford car park will be closed off. The man engine will be in there and will do a number of performances during the course of the day. But I understand there will be a charge for entering to watch it. I don't know the details of that, but that's what I've been led to believe. Yep, goes to show.
Yeah, I think I spoke about this before. You need to purchase tickets online, and it could be quite expensive for a family. There's 2 shows, one in the afternoon and one in the evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, they were about £12 or something online, were they, or thereabouts? I'm not sure exactly. Right, okay. And all the whispering that was going on to my right earlier on was about item 8, property update. The Assistant to the Town Clerk wants to express an interest in Unit 3.
I'm not sure I do. Just for information only, we've received a request from Tavistock Musical Theatre Group to rent the empty room we have in the basement here. It used to be rented to Tavistock Brass Band, but they left some time ago. It is a request we are currently considering. They're discussing it at their own upcoming meeting. If we then get a formal request, then obviously we'll look into it and reach a conclusion.
Oh, it's nothing to do with Unit 3 East End stores, and the clerk pointed to that. This is just something on property update, is it?
Correct, yes.
Right. Okay. Won't disturb the bats, will it, if the music process does? No? Okay, fine, good. So if we then move on after that, then please to Southern Links, notes of the meeting 30th of November. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Young?
It was to do with the TAP funding applications. And it seems that if you sort of go back a bit and look at some of these requests, there's certain parishes that do really well out of these applications. But yet we as a town council don't actually put in for anything. And I think we should. You know, you've got Beer Ferries just on this one is nearly £5,000 that they've had. But they're claiming money quite a lot. And there's other parishes on here that do on a very regular basis. And there's a part of me that says good on them, they've got the nous to do it. But there's another part of me that thinks, why don't we as a town council put in for some money? Because we don't. And we should, because we do contribute towards it. And, you know, if we've got projects coming up that would benefit other parishes, then I think we should. We've supported other parishes, for example, in those records being digitalised or whatever they were doing. But we don't actually do it for us as Tavistock Town Council. And I just think that perhaps we should be a little bit smarter.
Thank you. It's up to you and the others sitting around the table to come forward with projects that might be appropriate. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, we have made applications and been granted monies in the past for various projects from the TAP fund.
Not in recent years.
Probably the latest one was the Sensory Garden, which got funding through the TAP fund.
Okay, so if we move on then to Tavistock bid minutes. Any comments, questions on that? No. Sorry, Councillor Williams.
Just an observation, really. I heard grumbling about the Pannier Market not being open on Christmas Eve. Hopefully the bid minutes provide the answer. The second bullet on the first page, because they voted not to open, which seemed fair enough to me. So, really, information. I think it's fair enough, but there were
Well,
about it not being open.
as most organisations seem to have shut down a couple of days before Christmas Eve this year anyway, probably not too bad, frankly, is it? I mean, you know, I've never known a Christmas quite like this, I don't think. I mean, the whole place was virtually closed down from well before Christmas Eve. I mean, people were going at mid-morning-ish on the Friday. Well, 2 days to go, 2.5 days to go. But never mind. Okay, so if we move on then to... Oh, sorry. Oh, General Manager. Goodness me.
Just as a matter of accuracy, on page 2, where it's got Bloom, second bullet point down, it says TTC, not happy to water in 2018. That's not accurate.
Are we home?
We are happy to water at the appropriate rate.
No, it does give us a good opportunity to block the road so you can't get through while the vehicle's parked there. So it's quite, you know... Yeah, they'd probably move for that. Okay, well, are we going to correct that with them? Are we going to go back to the organisation and actually say, we pick that up from the minutes and we would disagree?
I mean, I think the council should write if it's inaccurate.
That would be my view. If it is clearly not correct, then I think we should write and say that we've noticed this from your minutes and we'd request you to know that this isn't correct. You know, because at the moment it's a bold statement. It says we're not happy to water in 2018. So I understand it, we are, but not necessarily at the frequency that they want it done. So I think we should... Yeah, I don't think that's acceptable at all. And hopefully one of our representatives at the next meeting will also raise it, but if we've written to them in the meantime. Thank you. So if we move on then to the Town Hall and Pannier Market Consultative Group. Any comments, questions, queries? No? Oh, Councillor Ewins. You're in my blind spot for some reason tonight. You're always there, I don't know why. Perhaps my, maybe my cataract and that eye's growing quicker than the other one or something. Yeah.
On item F, on the public realm, I've been approached by quite a lot of people and had quite a debate even today with my husband on this
Hang on,
subject,
I'm lost for a moment.
that people think we're cobbling the surround of the Pannier Market.
Sorry, where precisely are you on the agenda?
It says F, public realm, probably page... Oh God, it's about page 7.
Oh, item 5F. Right,
Yeah.
5F, thank you.
Sorry.
Yep.
There's a lot of talk in the town, as I say. I've had quite a heated discussion with my husband on the subject today as well, saying about Chinese whispers, that we're supposed to be cobbling the area outside the market. It will be no longer open to vehicles and tra-la-la. I even questioned the general manager one day and said, have I missed a meeting or something? Because so many people and traders are talking about it, and I just want it to be clear that no decision has been taken by this council as to what is going to happen with the perimeter. I know there's aspirations and I know there's pretty drawings, but as an actual decision, one has not been taken. And Harry's going to completely disagree with me now.
That's fine. This is a debating chamber. Councillor Smith?
As far as my view is that there was a public consultation some time ago, but that decision was a decision that was taken. It hasn't been reviewed or revised since that date. Therefore, and when it came to the voting, the only thing that was almost supported 100% was the design for the Pannier Market surround. I would also like to say that at this meeting, where there was a representative of traders and various other representatives, it was never said that it would be cobbled. It was said that we would be looking to move towards getting the quotes to do the Pannier Market surround in line with the proposal that went to public consultation. There are crossover points within the pretty surface, but it's hardly cobbled. It is a marked route from the tunnels into the marketplace in the actual surround, but that has never been revised, discussed, and as far as I'm aware, that was a decision at that time, and that is the basic design that would be going ahead on, certainly not cobbling.
Well, can we just pick up then these minutes say the General Manager explained the end use would be reviewed, policy decision made by Council via consultation. Can we ask the General Manager to tell us exactly how this process is going to move forward from this point, please?
I would be delighted. The public realm consultation document basically identifies a resin bonded finish to the surfacing.
That doesn't mean much to most people in the room.
There'd be some regulating of tar macadam, and then you'll have an imprinted surface on top, which will be a grey kind of heritage look. On all the crossing points, there are granite sets similar to the walkways that you see going across the main roads. All the line markings will be removed. There is an allocation of money for lighting and seating. In relation to the point that we're possibly debating in the future, at some stage there will be a policy decision around what you will have around the perimeter. So the public realm is quite simple. The resurfacing is quite simple. It's a worked up scheme. It's a scheme that's already pretty much been agreed. There's some choices around lighting, some choices around the types of seating. The design will be complete by early March for us to go out to tender, because we need to actually have a public realm complete in May for the launch of Butchers Hall, and traders moving back into the pannier market in June. The area of discussion is what do you expect to see around the perimeter in 2018, not as in the built heritage, but do you expect to see marquees, do you expect to see tables around there, or do you want it open plan? And I think that's the final decision that the council has to make at some stage.
So summarising to make sure I've got it straight in my head, the decision about the surfacing and crossover points has been made, and that is not something which is up for consultation in the future. What this reference to consultation is dealing with is whether in fact we simply leave the perimeter with nothing on it at all, or whether we put a range of seating upon it, whether we put a range of stalls, semi-permanent stalls, whatever. That's the issue that's being talked about in terms of consultation.
The seating, lighting, some planting schemes will probably be part of the overall public realm.
Right.
The main point of consultation will be how do you want it to operate after the public realm has been done.
And is there a possibility that vehicles will be prohibited altogether from using the perimeter?
The surfacing, which has been put on the pannier market perimeter, will allow for vehicles to go around, and will allow perimeter shops to be able to unload and load.
Right. So it'll be subject to the same restrictions as now in terms of health and safety, but there will be no change to that particular element.
And that's our current position as a council.
Councillor Smith, please.
Yeah, I think the point that came up at this meeting was a valid one, which was the drawings themselves, or the artist's impressions, show a clear, clutter-free zone all the way around the market. The question that was raised was, well, why can't we have stalls and fill it all up again, or fill it again like we currently do? So I think that was the point that was. It was,
and that is what, as I'm understanding, that is what the consultation will deal with.
Yeah, that's what they wanted a consultation on. Should it be a heritage aspect which is relatively clutter-free, or should you use it in a similar manner to what we've been using it, which is to put stalls up and seating or whatever around it?
Okay, and before I bring the town clerk in, can I also just check for my own information and knowledge that what we're discussing here does not include the area that's underneath the colonnade, because some of that actually is subject to rent currently. Is that correct?
It doesn't include the area under the colonnade.
It does not include?
No.
Okay. Town clerk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, just by way of, for those members who are here, probably about 3 years ago, we did have a special meeting of council specifically to consider the future use aspects, if you like, of the pannier markets around. Discussion took place around a whole range of things, such as the general managers mentioned, also about how we can generate increased footfall on the southern side of the pannier market in the region of the Butchers Hall, and the outcome of that was that aspect around not the capital programme, because that's really been signed up to by the council, but around how that space is used will be subject to a future council decision, and that's very much what Councillor Smith and the General Manager have touched upon in their references. So that will be subject to consideration by council when we are further developed in terms of the capital scheme. Right,
so I think one of the key points there is if you approach from the Plymouth Road side through the wrought iron gates, the natural tendency of most people at the moment is to turn left, simply because that's what draws your attention, and only a smaller proportion of people that are going down towards the cheese shop and Howells, because that's where they're going anyway, tend to go down that way. There is a natural tendency to swing left, and there has been discussion, I know, with the architects as to how that might interact with the crossover from Butchers Hall as well, how we might actually try and distribute the flow through those gates a bit more evenly down either side, because at the moment there's very little to attract your eye that takes you down that way, and if you stand there for a while and watch, you will find that the significant proportion of the people actually drift left probably because they're going towards the colonnade and the various shops and the bits and pieces that are outside of the market, but that's what tends to happen at the moment. The ones that drift right, usually, if you watch them, they either end up using one of those doors on the side to enter the pannier market, or they go to Howes or the Olive, whatever they call themselves, shop, and one of those particular businesses. They don't tend to. Hence, it's much more difficult. I mean, we're struggling to get people down to the East End either way, and that's certainly one of the things. Thank you very much, Father John. So, lost my train of thought now. Does that answer? Oh, sorry, Councillor Crawford.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to know what the plans are for the Butcher's Hall once the business has moved back into the pannier market, and which I went into today and looks fabulous, I have to say.
Not wishing to stop the General Manager answering that question, but what might be helpful if you have time is to sit down with the General Manager as a new councillor, if you haven't done this already, and go through some of these things, including that, because there's quite a bit involved and developed. And I think if you're happy that to arrange to meet, because there are a number of projects going on which you probably need to spend some time just talking with the General Manager. He's actually quite, he's quite easy to get on with at times. Occasionally he knows what he's talking about as well.
Okay.
But I think that, I mean, there are some clear plans for that. And they are dictated to over the first 3 years, I think it is, because of the constraint that we're using LEAF funding to deal with it. Rather than go into all of that now, it's probably easier if you spend some time with the General Manager and all the clerk to sort of pick up on some of those things, if that's okay with you, is it? Yeah, okay. Anything else on this particular document? If not, we're on to Tavistock and District Chamber of Commerce. Any issues there that anyone wants to deal with? It's probably the shortest set of minutes I've ever seen, but yes.
Well, that is my comment. They aren't notes, they're not even jottings. It doesn't tell you anything.
Councillor Williamson?
Perhaps I could say a few words. I attended the meeting last night. There was no agenda, no minutes presented from the previous meeting. It was informal. The current chair is stepping down next month when they have their annual general meeting. There will be a new chair. They don't know who it will be. There didn't appear to be many volunteers in the room. I think there were 5, plus a borough councillor, myself included. It was a fairly informal meeting. There is going to be a business show on the 14th of May. The Tavistock Chamber of Commerce breakfasts apparently are going quite well, but the evening meeting, the meeting I attended, the monthly meeting on Monday nights, is not well attended. There was a discussion about the relationship between the bid and the Chamber of Commerce and how it might be fostered. There was also fairly pointed comments that the Town Council did nothing and the Borough Council did everything as far as supporting the traders and the Chamber of Commerce, to which I robustly pointed out that actually it was an inverse relationship that I saw it as. And in fact, the Town Council, with its work on the heritage, was doing an enormous amount of work, and also on the other side, with the allocation of grant money, we were doing work for the community. And it was for the Chamber of Commerce to approach the council if it had issues about driving things forward. We were there to help, and that was the point I made quite robustly. I think they may have been a bit taken aback by the robustness of my comments, but it needed to be said. And I think the issue for them, and I said this to them, is the bid's got the money and they haven't.
Councillor Williamson, if I might suggest then, if once we know who the new chairman is, it might be appropriate to invite the chairman to speak to this council for a few moments in the 6:30, 6:45 slot, or 6:15 or whatever, but just, once there's a new chairman, just to come and express some issues, if they've got issues or concerns, at least put names to faces. They should know who we all are. But that would be, if you'd like to suggest that, I'm quite happy to, through the clerk, to put out an invitation to them once the new chairman's been appointed.
I think that would be an excellent idea if we put a hand out to the new leader of that organisation and follow up on some of the comments I made last night. I'd be happy to brief the clerk individually outside of this meeting.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful. Thank you very much for that. I keep losing my place tonight. I don't know, perhaps I'm just not very with it. We're on to Tavistock Townscape Heritage Initiative Progress Report enclosed. Any comments or questions or queries or... No? My apologies for anybody who has eyesight issues with different colours, because it's not particularly helpful with this document if you do. Yes, Councillor Crawford.
Sorry, I don't know if it's in there. I know that Kingdon House was allocated some funding from the Heritage funding. Mm-hmm. Can I have an update at all? It might not be appropriate here, but I just wondered what the situation was, please.
Technically not under this item. For the clerk or someone to give us an update on that.
Kingdon House was a late entrant into the
priority. It is here actually. Yeah, it is
into the.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Into the priority projects, and I'm just having a little look down through. If you look on the third page, P9, that outlines the current situation as updated at December 2017, which reflects an additional or a further consideration by the grants panel and an additional in-principle award of grant.
Slight difficulty. I don't think some of us have got P9, have we? I've got P8 on the third page. Oh, it's up there. Right, okay. Sorry, yeah, just confused myself. It's the unallocated one, yeah. Sorry, does that answer your question, Councillor Crawford, or not? I'm not sure if it does, because I'm not sure I've put the two things together in my head properly. You okay with that? Yeah. Right. Just as a point to the clerk, I don't know if anyone does suffer from red-green blindness, but colour blindness, but these sort of things aren't, we ought to perhaps check that and make sure that it's not an issue for some individuals. Well, Toad Specsavers have got some quite good offers on at the moment, Councillor Wickham. But
other opticians are available.
Yeah, other opticians are available. Yeah, we're being broadcast. I've got to say that. Thank you for that. So if we move on to G then, any update from or questions to council representatives serving on other outside bodies? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you know, I'm the representative on Kingdon House. We've now achieved a promise of 40% of our Phase 1 costs for the enveloping the building and making it watertight. The costs are in the region of 130,000. That's what we thought they were. The tenders actually come in at less, 126,000. So we're now busy preparing an application to the Greater Dartmoor Leaf Fund with support from Greater Dartmoor Leaf to put it together. And as such, I have been tasked to ask a number of people for letters of support, and I have written to the Mayor, sent him an email on the 1st of January asking him for a letter of support, so I hope that he might be able to do that.
Sorry?
I did. There was a fact sheet that came with it, which sorted everything out. So if you could provide that, please, Mr. Mayor, I'd be most grateful.
That's come on my Philip at Sanko address, is it? Okay, yeah. I'll check on that then. That's 2 smacks on the hand I've had tonight. Councillor Smith, please.
Yeah.
It's a good job we've got 2 hands.
In reflect on the situation regarding the Tavistock Community Sensory Garden. It has been within the report tonight that it was officially opened, and you were there. It was opened by Angela Rippon recently. It's just to say that most of the work that was planned to be done by the group of volunteers heading up the project, most of that work has been completed. The proposal is to move the organisation to a charitable incorporated organisation, and therefore the current organisation will pass over responsibility for the garden to the new organisation. I think there's 2 points with that. One is that we need to be clear where we are with regard to the relationship of the new organisation with the council as opposed to the old organisation. with the council, and just to say that the original project, for the original project, we aimed to raise £25,000, and to date we have raised £37,000 for the project, and we've spent it all.
Thank you for that. And members, I would say if you haven't been to see it, please do. It's definitely worth a visit. The General Manager assured me yesterday that the path leading from the Rose Walk to this entry garden, which at the moment is rather green and a little bit slippery, will be pressure washed or whatever is appropriate in order to clean it, or either spray it or do something with it. And some of the cracked and wobbly slabs are going to be adjusted, I think, because they are a little bit tricky in places. But if you haven't been to see it, it is a perfect example of what can be achieved when a community gets together and works together. All aspects, branches of this community, of Tavistock and the surrounding areas, have had input into this. They've all worked together as a team. There's been, none, to my knowledge, no backbiting or infighting or difficulties or prima donnas or anything else. It's gone really well, and the end result is something that I think this town must actually be very proud of, without a shadow of doubt. It's a really good example of what can be done when people get together. Many people have given many hours, many people have given an awful lot of free labour and materials and advice, and it is a splendid project without a shadow of doubt, and it's a real credit to Tavistock, and I'm really proud of it. So, there's no other reports from anyone else on any outside bodies? No? Item 10, I do have one item under that. We've been asked to submit nominations for a possible place at a Queen's garden party later in the summer. A number of us are prevented from putting our names forward, even if we were minded to do so, because the rules on garden parties changed 2 or 3 years ago. It used to be possible to go more than once, and I myself have been on 2 separate occasions, once wearing a Borough Council hat and once wearing a County Councillor hat. That's not possible these days. But we do have 2 names that have been put forward, and the intention is that we have those 2 names written on a piece of paper, and I am going to ask our newest councillor, Councillor Crawford, because to make things absolutely fair and above board, I'm going to ask Councillor Crawford to draw a piece of paper from, I was told a hat, but it's going to be a bowl, is it, by the look of it? Okay. The 2 names are Councillors Ewings, and Smith, and we can only put 1 name forward, so we're going to have a simple draw. I'm sure we've ever had this situation previously, actually, but I think all members should be aware that there is no certainty that you will actually get an invite to a garden party. You will actually get, if you're lucky enough to be selected, then you will be given, generally speaking, a choice of about 3 dates, I think they tend to do. But there's no certainty if your name goes forward that you will actually be chosen. And how much longer shall I keep talking and keep everybody in suspense? Another couple of minutes or not? The 2 names that went in were Councillor Ewings and Councillor Smith. The name that was drawn out by our newest councillor was in fact Councillor Smith. So, Councillor Smith. Thank you for that, Councillor Crawford. I thought it was better that you did it than any of the rest of us did it, then there can be no issues of sticky fingers or collusions or whatever. I have nothing else under item 10. I have nothing at all under item 11. And sadly, we say goodnight to Lindsay, which is a shame.